So in math, what does the word of mean? Zach? To multiply. And what does the word is mean, Seth? Equals. So we need to know that for this section. We need to know what these words mean in math so that we can write equations using this information. So the first thing, we plan to buy a radio that costs $49.99. The tax is 7%, so I want to know how much tax is going to be added on. Okay, so something that is going to be extremely important in this section, when we see a percent, we either want to write that as a decimal or as a fraction. So because we're working with equations, we want to write that percent as a decimal, 0.07. Is that the only problem with this equation, Zach? So first of all, we didn't even write an equation. We wrote an expression. To have an equation, we have to have an equal sign. So $49.99 times 0.07 equals x. If I use a variable, I need to name it. So what does my variable represent in this problem? Somebody else besides Zach. He told me the equation. Joe? The tax that's going to be added on. The variable is going to represent what we're trying to find in our problem. We are trying to calculate the tax that I need to add on to the price of the radio. You need to be able to write an equation. If you can't write this out and name your variable, you're going to lose 2 points. One for the variable, one for not having an equation. So for these problems, we have to write a full equation. If I'm just trying to calculate the tax, then I just set it equal to x. So then, when I multiply $49.99 times 0.07, what do I get? Zach? $3.50. Did you have to round, or was that exact? So if we round, we're going to use our squiggly lines. So we did have to round. I think it was 3.499. So we round, and we're going to round up because it's 3.499. So I round up to 350, and what are we talking about here? Dollars. We're talking about tax. We're talking about money. So we're going to use that dollar sign as our label. So the tax that I am going to pay on this radio is going to be $3.50. Now, my next question that is not on your paper, how would I calculate the total money that I'm going to pay for this product? Jacob? Add the tax to what? So I take the price of the radio and I add the tax. Make sure you have this in your notes because this is a question I will ask you. And what is going to be, everyone should have out a calculator and be calculating what is the total amount of money that I am going to pay for this radio. Graham? And we said we are working in dollars. So I calculate the tax, I write an equation, calculate the tax, then I can use that to find the total price of what I'm going to pay for the radio. Questions about that problem? All right, let's move on to this next problem. We've got some words. We need to pick out what's something important that we need to know to write an equation. Jacob? Received, returned. Okay, that's going to come in handy because that's going to be important for our question. Graham? Good. So we get 1,450 forms back, which is 18% of the total I sent out. What else do I need to know for this problem? Somebody that hasn't answered for me yet. Thank you, though. Jason? I need to know what question I'm being asked. What is my variable going to represent when I write an equation for this problem? Zach? So the number of forms or surveys that I mailed, or that the representative mailed. So my variable represents the number of forms we mailed, and I have all my information highlighted. So Jacob, come write our equation for us. What words in this problem tell me that I need to take 0.18 times x? Seth? Can you tell me the whole phrase? %, of the total that we sent is 1,450. So we have to multiply 18% times our variable, times the total number of forms that we sent out. Just because I see numbers in here doesn't mean I take 18% and multiply it by 1450. That's not what the problem tells me. The problem tells me that 1450 is 18% of the forms that I mailed. So I multiply 0.18 times x, and that has to equal 1450. How am I going to solve this equation to figure out what x is? Alex? Where? You can write a proportion for this problem. You can solve it either way. In this section, we're talking about equations, so I want to be able to write it as an equation.